The situation has really changed in the last 12 months in Germany as far as the digital music side is concerned. A lot of competition here, a lot of opportunities for digital to expand in Germany, because now it's physical is still 75% of the market here. So I think it's a huge potential for growth in this country. I'm Andrea Leonelli, and I run a website called digitalmusictrends.com. And we do 2 shows a week at the moment. One is a weekly roundup of the week's news in the digital music industry with lots of great journalists and experts from all around the world. And the other one is a show interviewing startups in the music tech industry, but also cool digital music marketing projects and agencies, anything that's into that space really. Well, I think like with all things, it really depends on adoption, who your users are, what the conversation is, and where you want to be. Like, if say that VEVO takes off here in Germany, and you're a great independent artist that is really into doing cool videos, like even low budget but like really well shot and everything like that, then you might find a really great audience on that platform if they think, if they start pushing your content. And at the same time, Spotify, Audio, Deezer, or any of the streaming services can be a great opportunity for the right artists to find a new audience. Of course, we all know that the revenues from these services are not the ones that people are getting from physical. So, of course, there's a degree of sort of wariness from the artists to transition too quickly into digital. And of course, they shouldn't forget that physical, at least here in Germany, should still be a really big part of their strategy, because it's still very much in demand. And so, digital a great opportunity, a great way to get exposed. But I think here, artists can still they shouldn't abandon physical completely. I mean, it's just too big of a market here right now. I mean, the session with VEVO was very interesting because they just signed a deal with Gemma, and of course I've been covering the standoff between Gemma and YouTube for the past sort of 8 to 10 months as it's gone more high profile, and since the videos have been taken off YouTube for the majority of the German public. And so the fact that they have managed to reach a deal with Gemma, it took them 2 years to do it, is exciting, because it means that at least it is possible to do something like that. And Gemma are slowly changing and opening up to these kind of new models, ad-supported models. And VEVO is a very interesting company. Even if they are coming from a major label background, because they are essentially like they started as a joint venture between Universal and Sony, they are very much trying to be their own self and being an independent company editorially, trying to bring in independent content as much as possible. They've made a deal with Merlin, and they also have deals with independent distributors like TuneCore, for example, and Ditto to distribute independent videos. So there's a lot of potential there. It's going to be interesting because they don't have the support of YouTube here in Germany, so people are going to be able to find them only on vevo.com and on their proprietary sort of own applications for mobile, which they have quite a few on. I think they have Android, iPhone, and Apple TV, and a bunch of other stuff. So it's going to be a challenge for them to get the public to get to the site and check out the company and videos, but a big potential upside if they do it right. Well, streaming services are, I think, an essential part of the industry at this point, and they're going to become, the core of the industry on the digital front in the next 5 to 10 years. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt of that. Of course, how that transition is handled, it's a whole different matter. And of course, people today are concerned because the payouts that are coming from streaming services are much lower than what they are used to from downloads and physical sales, and that's a completely fair concern to have. And also the concern that they have is that instead of that a lot of cash is being generated off the back of musicians, which is going to investors or Spotify. It's generating all this value in a company, a billion-dollar company, multi-billion-dollar company, and that's true for Audio or Deezer or any of these. And really, the value is not held by the artist, but it's held by a bunch of shareholders. So I think sometimes musicians have the point that for them that's not really the right way to do it, because musicians should have more of a weight within these platforms. At the same time, like every content startup, it starts from the technology, and so like it happened with iTunes and like it happened with YouTube, most of these developments come from a technology point of view, and so unfortunately these services also have to make ends meet. And so we've seen that Spotify, for example, is still losing money. It's losing less money than it was losing in 2011, but it's still losing money. And so of course the debate around rates is important, but how can you raise rates and create a sustainable service if the service is not able to actually be profitable? Because then the ecosystem becomes broken, and it's a really big problem. So there's so many issues surrounding this. So it's really hard to have a black and white perspective on it. I think there's so many different points of view to be taken into consideration, and it's difficult to have a strong opinion one way or the other. It's just a question of looking at everybody's position and trying to understand what they want, why they want it, and whether it's feasible to do that or not. Absolutely. I mean, for where I'm concerned, and a lot of people that I know as well, the problem is that if you're not on Spotify and I want to find you on Spotify, I'm not going to look for you anywhere else. I mean, that's unfortunately that's the truth. Like I go to a lot of music conferences, and it's great to be able to find on sites like playlists.net. For example, you can go on South by Southwest playlists and Meet-em playlists, or Eurosonic playlists, and find all the artists that are playing at that particular event, and you can listen to all of them and sample what they're doing. If they're not on Spotify and they don't have a track on the playlist, it becomes a much harder conversation. And of course, if they're uncomfortable having everything on Spotify, I don't have to say that you have to have your whole back catalog on it, but at least if you're a new artist, you should have at least one track or two tracks so that people can sample what you're doing, what you're about, and if you are playing events like Berlin Music Week, they can find you on playlists and different other areas. I think it's really important. I mean, I'm not sure about exactly what points of advice to give, but I think the core problem and solution is that you have to have start with the music. So the music always comes first. A lot of artists are really worried and concerned about the distribution methods and how to market themselves and everything else before they even have the music laid out and strong and as best as it can be. So I think the music really has to be the foundation of everything that an artist does. What they do after that, in terms of social media, in terms of distribution, in terms of how they market themselves, I think it's all down to who they are, their personality, what they want to do. There's no point telling an artist you have to be on Facebook or you have to be on Twitter. The artist should be comfortable doing what they want to do, and if they are somebody that is comfortable with Twitter, it's great. If they are more comfortable taking photos, then maybe they should be on Instagram and maybe link it to Twitter, and so they don't have to deal with that themselves. There's so many different ways of expressing oneself as an artist, and everybody's different. So it's always hard for an artist to hear people say, "Oh, you have to do this, you have to do that." And it's always quite daunting as well, because you hear of so many services and so many platforms you have to be on and update and do all this kind of stuff. But the reality is that if you find your own voice and you find a way that you're comfortable with expressing yourself and a method to do that, then I think audiences are going to see that. They're going to appreciate the fact that you're being honest to who you are, and you're going to start getting some buzz. So hopefully that's something that artists can use and take away.